And here we are indeed with the 321. Thank you, James. Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of MBTV News. One time it was known as Metaworld News. Maybe it still is. I don't know. Anyway, this is a show where we look at the latest news from immersive spaces online, virtual worlds, that kind of thing, and a little bit about the haptics, the interfacing tools we use for them. Far too many things are being categorized as the cough, cough, cough metaverse these days to cover everything. So we tend to limit ourselves to social platforms as much as we can and links thereof. So today's date is the 26th of March, 23. 2023. Get it right. And so these are our news headlines for that week. We have a few exceptions to that rule, but they'll be coming up in the future. Now, you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Malburns, Malburns. And you'll find all the links I'm covering here, there, plus loads more that I'm not covering here, so to speak. And if you do need any of the links and go to Twitter, you'll find that the link goes directly to the web page or the news item that I'm talking about. If you follow the links I give out on air, you might just find you end up on home pages and it impedes your ability to find the actual article. So take it or leave it, whichever way you want to do it. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I also have a feed for Metaworld at mastodon.social. All the things there get forwarded to Twitter anyway, so no worries. But that particular Mastodon feed is kind of where I keep videos, longer form videos that you might want to watch. So I'm going to start by going down the page that lists those, just to get it out of the way before we move on to other stuff. And we should have that on screen now, I believe. It's, okay. It's showing you the web page. This one I posted today. I got the link to this from Philip Rosedale, and it's he was recommending it. It's a video essay, and the guy's actually done quite a few. But I've got a typo here. It says no bobbies there. It's meant to say no bodies there, and there is actually referring to a virtual world platform that preceded Second Life. And Philip was saying that this is a great article, essay on those times. And several people have emailed me already saying, well, it wasn't the only failed metaverse and blah, blah, blah. But it's also a bit of an exaggeration to, call it the first failed metaverse. Because it's
This year, there's been a lot of articles or videos out there that basically go like this. The metaverse already exists, and it's Fortnite, Roblox, Old, Snow Crash, Second Life, The Office, Second Life, again, VR chat, the entire concept of the internet, online games. I've even sort of done this myself with my exploration of one of the first social virtual worlds, ActiveWorlds. Of course, I tempered this by shying away from using the term metaverse, as previously I've done a video on why I'm just not a big fan of that term.
You get the idea, but it lasts about 45 minutes. It's nice, nice little. I did get diverted while I was listening to that earlier today. So you'll find that on the feed there. I posted this while it was live last night, and actually didn't really have time to follow too much of it. But it's a new season of F Reality. And this particular one was GDC special. GDC was the Game Developers Conference, which actually happened this week, hot on the heels of about 3 conferences in a row. But anyway, this week it was Game Developers Conference's turn. And so there's a bit of live coverage from that. Okay, this one, James and I were just talking about beforehand. Uh, in Second Life, the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education conference is on. And there were 3 keynotes, lots of basically it's educational sessions of varying quality. But I'm actually a big fan of Alexandra Humphreys here. She's a musician. She wrote a book during lockdown about gaming, which has been well received. And she's also a lady who hosts the weather forecast on the BBC. So person of many talents. It was rather odd hearing her voice coming out of an avatar, but there she was. On Friday, this would have been, not just talking about her book, but talking about connections to education and all sorts of things. That she obviously knows even more about this stuff than you would have thought from just the book. Anyway, excellent presentation. And I caught some of it live, which is when I grabbed that. Um, the weekend in XR, or this week in XR, the normal Charlie Fink show. That was out over the weekend, of course. Ted Schillerwitz and Roby Abovitz with him. And they had a guest, which is Steve Zal, the founder and CEO of Sandbox VR, which gets quite a lot of publicity, but it's not the most. I don't know. It's fairly highly rated, but I don't really know much about Sandbox. Finally, um, a session on whether AR VR can help expanded apprenticeship programs. Apprentices being, like work experience sort of thing. This is actually an American one. Rep Lisa Blunt is that representative or Republican? I don't know, but it's one or the other. She's government, and various guests I've never heard of. But if you're interested in the enterprise and training side of VR and things, then quite an interesting little sort of chat there. Right, the minds that imagine the metaverse. This is another conversation. Um, two great people there, actually. I think it was Amy, what's her name they were talking to? You've got Neil Stevenson, of course, who wrote Snow Crash and is involved in Lamina coming up, but also Sharon Lanier there too. It's sort of mega star of history, as it were, virtual worlds and the web in general. And yeah, to have the two of them together talking was really rather interesting. Um, so, yeah. Right. What else have we got here? Reality Lab lectures. This is somebody called Mark Billinghurst, and it's talking about emphatic computing and new directions for collaborative XR. The XR is the key word here because we're talking about extended reality, which is an embracing thing that includes virtual reality, etc., etc. And empathic, not emphatic, emphatically, never mind, empathic teleexistence, right? And that's just one of the slides that goes with this thing there. And yes, the final entry in the day is from earlier. There's two here actually. This is an audio podcast, Computer Vision and the Future of Imagery in the Metaverse. That's the Open Metaverse podcast. Yeah, the final video one here, of course, is VR download. And I don't know, did you see this one, James? Unlike last week, I didn't really catch this.
Yeah, I caught bits and pieces of it, but I don't remember much. I had a very busy weekend. So
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, the Vive self-tracking thing seems to have been covered in a few places. I think we'll see a little bit of that later. But
yep, yep.
yeah, I can't remember much else of great import there. Okay, so having shown you that, which is at the bottom of my list, I can actually go to the top of my list, which is where I want to be without getting confused. You didn't need to know that. But guess where we're going to start? Dun, dun, dun. Cue the music. Yes, it's the scarred ghost, no less, otherwise known as Anthony Patillo, with his regular, starts the week with the XR week peak, and of course he's looking back on the week that went before. So strictly speaking, this is not supposed. It's supposed to came up this week, but it's not about this week, if you see what I mean. Main news is Meta, the four-letter word metaverse. Is that right? No, I don't know. They're performing new layoffs. That's interesting. It's obviously considered to be a performance when you lay off several thousand people. I don't know. Google Glass, remember them? Well, that's shut down. And more. And more. And don't ask me what that picture is. I think it's a part of a something or other. Anyway, he's back in Italy after South by Southwest, of course, which was the other conference the week before. And it's got the top news of the week. It includes, this is all the week before the one that's just gone by, but it's a good way to recap. He's very chatty in his blog, so there's quite a lot there, to read if if you want a roundup, so to speak. Um, that's all I'll say for now because a lot of what's covered there is stuff we've covered elsewhere anyway. But as I say, a good roundup. You'll find out at SKARREDGHOST.com, skarsghost.com. We'll have a couple of others coming up to note that site in a minute or two. All right, so remove item. That's what I'm talking to myself there. Okay, what is an industrial metaverse? Well, XR Today believe they've got an explanation for you, or at least an exploration for you, no less. Um, Again, this is more for people involved in government or enterprise or things like that, and the sort of regulations that come with that, as opposed to common law regulations to do with what is fit for public consumption kind of regulations. Okay, experts believe the landscapes will be incredible tools for human connectivity, etc., etc. This is undeniable, but exactly how it comes about and when is hard to know these days. They give an explanation of what they think it's all about: levering XR technology, RT 3D content creation, cloud streaming. And trouble whenever people talk about the metaverse, they seem to be talking about everything or absolutely nothing. Nothing in the sense that they don't understand what they're talking about. Everything in terms of it's the only definition one could come up with. Appropriate, that Hollywood movie, isn't it? The one that won all the awards. Everything, everywhere, all at once. They should have just called it metaverse. Everybody else is calling that something a metaverse, so why not that? Anyway, use cases for the industrial metaverse, and there we go. They obviously include, digital currencies and things in the wider look of things. Anyway, you'll find us at xrtoday.com, xrtoday.com. And put that one away. Moving down, we got another one from the same site actually. This article is why are museums curating their content in the metaverse? Which some of them are, and some of them aren't. It's the usual thing. It's like when the web started. Why are museums going on the web? Well, we're a museum and we're not on the web. What is this called again? It's the same thing with the metaverse. Some are on it, some are off. This article seems to be trying to question why. Basically, arts and entertainment landscape basically is the thing, and the rise of museums and art. In my experience, Sandbox, I don't know if it was a virtual world or a platform, but Warner Music are there. The rise of VR and Helmet Land, as I call it. I mean, there are a lot of places you find on the web that are literally installations. They're like art installations or art galleries you can visit. They're not part of a greater connected landscape. They're connected simply that they have web addresses and websites are connected. That's the closest it comes to interop or anything else. But that does seem to, museums and art galleries that have websites have actually converted them into 3D things where possible. Not all of them, of course. Some of them are still websites. And some of the more ambitious experimental arts have actually experimented with VR, Helmet Land itself. So, yeah. Anyway, another kind of review piece this, and again, you'll find it at xrtoday.com, xrtoday.com. And, pop up. And they had a busy week for articles this week. No, this and the next one, that's 4 from XR Today on one fell swoop. 5, another one later. Okay, a Warping Reality, who I've never heard of, but you've got to say it's quite a nice name, isn't it? Warping Reality. Anyway, their CEO Emma Riddisard explores the future of mixed reality headsets with the XR Today, of course, is the site. So looking at the future of different formats of headsets or helmets, as I call them, and maybe one day even glasses, although they're more likely to be goggles before we get to glasses, I think. But I think contact lenses. I don't think I've got right. Oh yes, I do have a little clip coming up later, which I wasn't going to run at first until I realised what the real trick in the middle was. So yeah, in fact, let me see. Okay, this is xrtoday.com. I'm not going to read all that out again. Um, just for a little break here, I'm going to move across to the news clips section here. And yeah, this one. Yeah, it's only a couple of minutes. This is for the Australian military, and like we've had plenty of clips, you know, showing how armies are training and stuff, being like that with VR and how they're, you know, using remote guidance things in the air and you know robot soldiers and everything. But what I found fascinating about this is watch for the middle basically because they got a stupid looking four-legged robot, right? But what you don't realize until they tell you is that the soldier hasn't got a controller in his hand to control the robot. He's actually controlling the robot with his mind. Have a look.
Today, a successful collaboration with the University of Sydney. This has been a four-way collaboration supported through the Innovation Hub and using our partnership with the Defence Science and Technology Group, DSTG. This four-way collaboration focused on how we could create a brain robotic interface that will allow a soldier, rather than operating an autonomous system with a command console, to operate the system using brain signals. What was created was a headset that a soldier could use using the HoloLens 2 model that had an AI decoder via a Raspberry Pi that would translate brain signals into explainable instructions. What's so exciting about this technology is it has the opportunity to be used with a number of different autonomous systems. We conducted two short demonstrations today. The first demonstration showed a soldier operator commanding an autonomous system, being the Vision 60 Ghost robot, to a series of waypoints along the ground, and this was conducted successfully.
The potential of the project is actually very broad. At its core, it's translating brainwaves into zeros and ones, and that can be implemented into a number of different systems. It just happens that in this particular instance, we're translating it into control for a robot.
The second demonstration was having a soldier operator acting in the role of a section commander and providing directions to both the Ghost robots and other members of their fire team. And they conducted a simulated patrol clearance of a number of buildings here at the Madura Range Urban Operations Centre.
Oops, that came to a very abrupt halt, didn't it? Caught me off guard, that did. Fascinating stuff there, I thought. Let's just while I'm here. Okay, this okay, this is a very short clip. It was obviously for a Zoom discussion. Let's just play it and see.
We never saw this as a substitution to the real life events. Yeah, rather a new dimension and a medium to create something which is not possible to be achieved in real life in terms of the visuals, in terms of the shows, in terms of some experiences.
I do think that the haptics field is a kind of a good answer to this question, because haptics have always been something that LBEs have relied on quite heavily. You're always going to be in a vest or a helmet or something that's giving you this kind of haptic feedback. But now we're starting to see these haptic vests and you know, boots and gloves and all this stuff is becoming quite mainstream.
Like one of the participants here commented that that communal experience that you get by going out is something that you don't get in the same way at home. Now, obviously, there is a lot that can be done, and we'll talk some about that, about how you can provide that communal activity. But the pre-show and post-show that happens before and after an experience, where you're hanging out at the bar talking about what you're about to do or talking about what you just did, that's very difficult to replicate when people are spread around the world.
The win situation here is to pick up what Jason was mentioned about about cross media. So you have this one story that has multiple points of entry, and you have Twitch, you have VR headset, and you have your PC VR, your PC, your normal PC. But you can transcend that with transmedia and get more involved even with the storytelling.
Okay, well, what appeared to be a sort of preview of a session which was actually much longer, which, as far as I know, is not online yet. So all I had was that. But yeah, they were talking about a whole variety of issues to do with interfacing and virtual worlds and stuff. So I look forward to more of that. I think the second guy talking there, rather amusingly, he seemed to be. Oh, where are we? Let me find him again. Here he is.
Feedback.
His
Now we're starting to see these
I can tell it was kept on moving around, and they're not that expressive bulldogs. But anyway, I was most amused. So let's go back to the web pages again. Okay, so this was museums curating content, etc. This was at XR Today, xrtoday.com. And at the same website, we have an article called The Fourth Sense. We've looked at this before, but it just pops up now and again. I think one day it'd been an integral part of the immersive experience, and that's his sense, the smell, basically the fourth sense they call it. I thought it was the fifth, or maybe the sixth, or maybe the no. Well, hang on, maybe I got five. No, sorry. Smell is the fourth one, I suppose. Depending on how you feel about these things, really. Can it deepen immersion? Well, I would say it absolutely can. This is basically looking at various ways that could be done. I mean, if you've got holograms and things like that, submerging you in the experience, I mean, the actual smells and taste of the real world are probably the next thing you want, for full immersion, if indeed you want full immersion, of course. 3D spatial sound, etc. All these are part of it. Studies found that smells themselves trigger about 70%, 75% of our daily moods. In other words, the right smell can make us feel energetic, happy, anxious, or disgusted. Yeah, quite. In some cases, they even help forming memories and enhancing learning experiences. We can learn what a certain food smells like when it's out of date and use that knowledge to avoid food poisoning, for example. And they could be beneficial in the virtual world. Now, there was a gadget, I think it attached to the first the Oculus device. Basically, I tend to think of a bit, I like burning oils and things for aromatherapy kind of things, and mixing the scents together and creating different sort of ambience. And like, like ordinary printing press, you actually create color by on a paper simply by having magenta, cyan, yellow, and black. Well, black actually isn't even part of it; it's just a masking layer. So you only need those three main substrates to recreate the full thing. The light you see on your computer monitor is all done with a red, green, and blue light. Lots of shades in between. You can get millions of colors on your screen, but it's all comprised of those three elements. So there's no reason to say that, like a printing press or an aroma sort of thing, if you've got definite scents, maybe some of them don't smell like anything you'd even recognize on their own, but they could be blended together in a myriad number of ways to actually create different sort of smells. Now, I don't know how that will work out in the end. Maybe you'd be walking around in a virtual world, down a mountain through a wooded land, past a few flowers, and then up a sand dune, and then to the ocean. And presumably the mix of substrates that were making up the smell during you had that walk will be constantly changing. Woodland smells and flower smells, and then the ocean. You know, so I don't know. It seems an inevitable sort of future there, and I think we'll get smell in virtual reality long before we get taste. For example, I don't quite know how they would do taste, but there are there are ways of doing it. It's not real taste. It's like using sounds to actually. You can create certain senses of smell by with sort of hard to hear sounds that actually resonate through your system somehow. But anyway, all beyond me. I just like the idea of it, basically. Scent Realm offers a selection of remote smell accessories for end users. Telescent solution, that's what they call it. So first you get telepresence, then you're going to get telescent. Oh dear. I mean, of course it might, all this might bring sort of how shall I say? There are certain people you really don't want to smell in a video call. Maybe it will bring best behavior back to our online encounters. Who knows if we could smell our avatars or our friends. Anyway, you find that at xrtoday.com for the umpteenth time there. Moving down to Forbes. Well, we've got XR this week in XR. This is Charlie Fink's Roundup, not the video version, but the text version. This is sort of a bit like, the Scarred Ghost for the end of the week. But he has the advantage here, and he's been at the Game Developers Conference, or can report back on all that accordingly. Well, I'll leave you to read this to decide. I'm not here to read out the whole thing to you, just to point you in an interesting direction. To people, writers who've been to places or actually have a good overview. Oh, I do remember this, the Omni treadmill. This, when it came out, was actually a crowdfunder and things, and it seems like ages ago, but apparently only just now, this week, is it shipping. So the first people are getting their Omni treadmills there, and I like the way these two people are traditionally glued to the big screen. In the same room, you've got somebody on a treadmill. I don't wonder if they're looking at that through big screen, or in which case, why are they on the treadmill? Who knows? Anyway, that's finally out. Mega Mart, Las Vegas. Yeah, this is all back to Game Developers Conference again, including a shot of, I think that's Charlie himself wearing something. Well, it's a bit of a good grainy photograph. It looks like 30 years old or something. Anyway, as I say, round up there. So you'll find that at Forbes.com, Forbes.com. Look for XR Roundup, Charlie Fink, but better still, go to my Twitter feed, Malburns at Malburns at twitter.com, and follow the link to that, and it will take you to the exact page you need. Always the preferred way of getting places, I think. Right. Oh, now this one's interesting. It's come from the THEVRARA, which stands for the VRAR.com. Association.com, if you see what I mean. So it's the VARA, it's not pronounceable. VRRA, whatever. Okay. The Internet of Behavior. Talking of behavior a second ago, weren't we? Implications for XR, extended reality analytics. They got a toolkit that unlocks human behavior in XR. Adds a layer of psychology to the Internet of Things to interpret digital dust into behavioral patterns. Right, well, as you can imagine, you probably need to be into this. This sounds the sort of thing you should go to an educational conference as an avatar and give a lecture on. I don't know, but it's not easy for me to get to grips with this, and I can actually get to grips with a few things, but people behave as people behave. I mean, behavior online needs to improve. Online has given people to behave disgracefully in many cases, but I don't quite know what they're getting at here with the idea of the Internet of behavior. It's a bit puzzling to me, but it's probably something you should read. If the name of the title makes you think, oh, that's interesting, then read this. It's only a short article anyway, so you'll find it at THEVRARA.com. Moving down the list. Can't believe this. I've ended up at a site called XR today, yet again. But this actually is their normal weekly roundup, XRTODAY. This is the roundup of the news, basically, from Friday. Same day as Charlie Fink's post comes up. Big XR news from NVIDIA, Spatial, RTLY, Ready Player Me, and Rookied, basically. So different selection for their roundup. Basically, NVIDIA is considered to make quite an impact at GDC, and they were also at this GPU technology conference too, which is a bit more specific, should we say. And they have their Cloud XR, which, as you imagine, it's like storage in the cloud, but XR is actually, if you can imagine, if you know of them, you'd have I don't know, a platform like Second Life, which has a client that you can use. And at the moment, you can't get to it on the web. Those things are actually sort of changing in that sort of direction. But imagine you did have a world, a whole client, a whole game or whatever, that was actually hosted on the cloud and authored using one of the XR platform technologies. And I suppose it's a bit like Amazon Web Services do for a whole load of people that need to bulk hire servers and things. The idea here is it'd be a cloud specifically for XR. Again, fairly sort of technical. But this round it includes Unity's got a creator toolkit that's in its beta stages. Ready Player Me have partnered with RTLY, who I don't really know much about, but they're partnering for avatar interoperability, which basically Ready Player Me basically already creates avatars that are cross-platform, but they're not everywhere. So by partnering up with RTLY, they're increasing the number of places their avatar will be able to be used. Okay, smart glasses, blah, 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 the rest of it. xrtoday.com for that roundup. And I dispose of that. I've still got a few to go, yeah, okay. This is interesting, especially in the UK here. This is a site called the metabyte.com, and it's spelled with an I, so THEMETABITE.com. If you're logging up that site, I mean, it's much wider ranging than just this report, which is about the UK government's online safety bill. But they're just having another look at it. It's sort of been slowly going through Parliament and then getting adjusted and adjusted again. So this is a bill that is not yet law, but keeps on getting fiddled with. And well, basically they are trying to modify it to include something that they perceive, at least, to be the metaverse. I mean, if the government's got an idea what the metaverse is, you can be damn sure it's 20 years out of date, but that's they've definitely got to put it in legislation now, haven't they? And there was a bit of a... they were talking to... Well, actually, they want sort of social offenders to wear kit out in public, rather than send them to prison or anything, so everybody knows who they are and can't miss them. And you can imagine, the mob going down. Oh, look, there's a burglar bloke. I can tell by the colour of his jumpsuit. Let's mug him. I don't know whether that's an altogether good idea, but there was also talk about that where they won't just wear jumpsuits, there will be smart jumpsuits with a whole sort of tracking and surveillance sort of kit in them. And you think, oh, we're ever getting to George Orwell's 1984 and 5? Oh, God, we're way past it, Criminals won't be in prison anymore. They'll just be imprisoned in a jumpsuit kind of thing, which will be so smart it will monitor everything about them. Who knows? Still, good old Britain here, trying to dive in first with all this stuff, I guess. God, what they say about our country at the moment, I will not repeat. Anyway, you'll find this roundup at the metabyte.com, THEMETITE.com. And moving on down, my next piece is Woohoo! Guess who it is? But the reader mode wasn't working. Come on, there we are. Right, there he is again. The scar goes. Cue the music and look at this picture. Yep, that's Anthony Patillo again, and Vitillo. Sorry, I keep saying Portillo is the wrong name. He's got dramatic in that costume, doesn't he? He's trying on the goggles sort of thing. That I know when I saw this a few weeks ago, I thought, well, just about getting to where I could see myself wearing these things. And he actually got to try one at the South by Southwest Festival, basically, which was the week before last. This is the Vive XR Elite, this particular record. And it says, finally, I've been able to put a Vive XR Elite on my head. He says it in Italian, by the way, but that's beside the point. And anyway, yeah, the CEO, president of Vive, plonked it on him. And he obviously had to take selfies wearing this. It looks a bit like that. What hero character in the movie that's just got big eyes? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, people say it's actually very comfortable. So he says it's small and lightweight, and it's possible to wear for cool photographs. Yeah, well, he's making that point clear enough, hasn't he? Schematics of it. Anyway, he really goes in for, when he's doing a review of something specific, he looks at every aspect of it. So it's got a long review, but you'll find that at thescarghost.com, SKARREDGHOST.com. Put that one away, and yeah, about two more we've got. Convergence of new technologies endangering human agency. Right, university stuff. This, especially research from the University of California, but this is more about Europe. It's a site called friendsofeurope.org. You know, they're looking at the implications of all this change and stuff in Europe. FRIENDSOFEUROPE.org, and well, the thing that got them very upset was this game called Beat Saber, and it's a sort of, you know, it's a major game that could almost be said to be a virtual world. Apparently, if you're playing that, they have a unanimous AI stuck in it or something, and they can uniquely identify the user as a real world human in less than 10 seconds using biometric of a person's movement as an avatar. Now, but I don't know whether this involves, you know, motion tracking or things like that, or whether it's just down to behaviors. From what I know, somewhere like here, OpenSim or Second Life, for example, you can have a nicely animated avatar, and you can have animated walks, but there's nothing in moving forward or back or sideways that is particularly revealing about your own personality, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know whether they're just considering a time when you'll have cameras and motion tracking to identify this. But basically, this is a report on new technologies and surveillance, and the harm it could take to our individual agency as we endeavour to survive on this planet, shall we say. Anyway, a lot to read on that one, as you can see from my scrolling. So, Friends of Europe, all one word, .org. And final of the web pages to look at here is XLA reveals MetaSites, a 3D internet framework. Well, again, you know, we've got these comments about interoperability, is it or isn't it, or whatever. This is clearly a site called XLA. They've announced that at the Game Developers Conference, they're creating a bridge between AI and the metaverse. Now, again, where I think most people understand what AI is because it's being used in just about everything under the sun at the moment. And less people know what the metaverse is. Everybody's got their own idea there. But they do seem to be going for something here. The MetaSites basically is a 3D internet framework. So you've got to imagine that it is WebXR, essentially. These sites will be on the web, XLR, and there'll be a 3D, so it's a 3D internet framework. Um, but it is a framework, so presumably it can connect various things together. Now they've raised funds, blah blah blah. They're talking in very open, abstract terms here about analysis and what they're going to do. To put that in layman's language, I think we either have to wait and see, or you have to load this article somewhere and get a translator to read it to you. But basically, it sounds interesting. So at least this is not yet another newly revealed metaverse, blah blah. It's a system for meta sites and a framework that goes with them, so presumably could connect them together. Anyway, that's it for the reading list, so to speak. We looked at that one, didn't we? We looked at the soldiers. Okay. I'm thinking, we're good on time. We're good on time for once. Okay, it could be a perfect day here. This lady, Isabel Thomas, says, "Who am I?" I can't remember. I don't know where we've shown this already, but anyway, it's 3 minutes.
Imagine you are on a typical day off. You might start with a relaxing breakfast at home. You might want to go shopping. You might want to go to a cafe, meet some friends, then go to a concert, then close the night out in a pub. Are you changing your appearance throughout that? Are you changing your hair? Are you changing your clothes with every shop that you enter? Do you really think about how your ethnicity, for example, matches your appearance? Probably not. So in the current metaverse, this is not really a given that we can express ourselves how we want to express ourselves. Unlocking the true potential of the metaverse rests to a large extent on its promise of interoperability, meaning that we can move ourselves and our digital assets seamlessly across different virtual environments based on common technical and design standards without the need to create multiple avatars. At the moment, you have to create a different avatar for every experience that you enter. You create one avatar for Roblox, for example, you create another avatar for VR Chat or for Horizon Worlds. So in that sense, there is no sense of continuity of yourself. Identity is made up of our core self, which is constant over time, which is basically the steady component in our lives. And on the other hand, it's made up of a changing identity that is shaped by sociocultural connotations, by our roles, by our beliefs. It can change over time. How we express our identity really affects our authenticity and, in that sense, our personal well-being. The core self, for example, is tied to persistent identifiers, such as your voice or biometric features, or a gait, even how you walk. And this right now is not reflected in the metaverse. Maybe the common denominator that we have there is our voice, but gait or biometric features, it is only starting to emerge in the metaverse. Wedding rings, tattoos, it's just not there. You buy it for one platform, you have to buy it for another one. You have to constantly pay money to achieve this feeling of authenticity. We don't have a core self in the metaverse. Interoperability has the potential to actually create more accessibility, to create better diversity, better inclusion in the metaverse. Right now, it's not there, and there is a risk that this has the potential to threaten engagement in the metaverse among people. It also runs the risk that we deepen the digital divide for people. So in that sense, people who are already coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, they might not be able to engage in the same way, say, as more privileged people, people who are marginalized groups. They might not feel that they can express themselves just because the options that they can create their avatars with are very limited, or because on a different platform, they have different options, they cannot express themselves, they feel different, they look different, and they feel then discombobulated. Coming up with the right governance framework for interoperability standards that are inclusive is really crucial, and a crucial next step to achieve more accessibility in the metaverse, more diversity and more inclusion. In that sense, it's personal, it matters to us, and we should all work together to co-develop and collaborate on these governance frameworks, on features, design standards that will enable this future.
So the debate about interoperability, which to me is a must, really, does seem to be sort of going on. I was talking to James just before we came on air, actually, if he's still on mic, about one of the keynotes, not the one I showed you earlier. Tom Belsdorff, the anthropologist, did a keynote at that education conference in Second Life in a week, and I haven't seen it yet. I will have to check it out. But according to James, apparently he seems to be very opposed to interop. Have you got any thoughts on that, James? You want to add here?
Well, he was just criticizing interoperability as really having a financial purpose, and I proposed in the chat, and I didn't really see anyone respond, but I thought maybe what we're talking about here and what I hear this speaker talking about is not interoperability, but a persistence of identity. And
Yeah.
so, it's carrying identity. So do I need to be able to take my Second Life avatar into Meta Horizons? No, but can I keep my identity when I move between these places? And that might be maybe I felt like perhaps we're conflating the two concepts. And
Yeah,
maybe, yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm like about sort of I want the same avatar everywhere I go. It's
Right,
sort of,
right,
to me, it is part of identity, and
right.
even if it was a completely stupid fictional avatar, which mine isn't, unfortunately, maybe. That consistency of identity is important. She did manage. She managed to go on and mention ethnicity and things like that. And as we know, for 20 years with Second Life onwards, we have men whose avatars are women, and we have women whose avatars are men, and we have, when it comes to ethnicity, say black people often choose a black-skinned avatar because it represents them. On the other hand, you get role players who, and actually talk of Tom Belspov, being an anthropologist and sort of things he does, you actually get whole things where, say, a white male will role play as a black female, but it's not for the sake of entertainment, it's for the sake of learning about discrimination that the person they're role playing is subjected to in real life. And to a certain extent as it moves over into the virtual. So interoperability would be essential for that. Interoperability is meaning you can carry yourself around with you across different platforms. It's very funny. You go into Open Sim or World like where we are here. You have the platform on the servers, you have the client that shows you the actual world, but the mechanics by which the avatar is present are actually almost a separate plugin. You can get instances of OpenSim here, for example, where you log in and you don't actually have an avatar. You have a presence, but you can't see your own avatar. You don't have any idea what other people are thinking. So it's not full immersion. It's the platform, with imposed limits on it. Anyway, I'll come back to that. Let's see. I did have actually some pictures here in the same folder of news pics this week. Right. Oh yes, this is Alexandra Humphreys actually doing a national youth brass band thing yesterday, but that is the real character behind the keynote she gave on the conference in World that I mentioned on Friday, which I mentioned earlier. Oh, okay. Does that look like a penis to you? Sorry about everybody. Apparently, Governor Ron DeSantis has issued an executive order that makes it illegal for anyone to say the state of Florida looks like a penis. Well, what I can tell you is it's not a load of old balls. Yeah, that's my joke of the day. No applause, darn it. Right. And Antonia Forster here, who I recommend you follow on Twitter, very good there. Again at GDC, hosting the Women in Games, or a group of the Women in Games. There's a lot more of the band, so to speak, than we got there. This is just the Fair Share group sort of logo, and I don't know, it's just a poster really. Take your money back, start a currency with your friends, support each other while earning a dividend, and trade globally with anyone. You can find them on the Fair Share server on Discord, and in fact if you're part of the Metaworld group or the Hypergrid group that I run, there's a Fair Share server embedded within that you can activate if you're a member of those anyway. Vaguely related, Or was there? So they're all gone messed up again, aren't we? A good old Al Gore, remember him? He was a vice president once. he's he's got a book out actually on closing the equity gap, which is slightly related, oddly enough, for investors and activists, illustrating the many intersection between smart investing, economical and social justice. I think you have to be of, fairly serious interest to go and get that, but yeah, it's all around notable guy, made a lot of changes. Oh, that's Antonio again with Philip Rosedale, who wasn't going to go to GDC, but got talked into it, it seems. This is, yeah, I think this is GDC again. This is the Scarred Ghost. You can recognize him in the movie. He's published a little montage of, he obviously likes his selfies because he's, instead of publishing one selfie, he's just done a montage of all of them. I'm not even going to try and point out who's who. Let's see. Oh, Second Life, who are now 20 years old, believe it or not. They'll be having celebrations shortly. I don't normally cover much about Second Life here these days, but 20 years is not bad going. Especially, a lot of these people that call themselves metaverses at the moment are just sort of, 1-year-old whip starts, aren't they? Don't know what they're doing yet. So they've been there for 20 years. Okay, so finally back to here. Okay. No, I'm not okay. Where am I meant to be? I'm on news clips. Okay, 2 minutes 20. Right. Okay, this is a bit of advanced promo for OR, and then we'll be done, I guess.
Probably some of the best partnerships we've got came out of AWE, whether it was hardware providers, software providers. We've got a lot of really great partnerships off the back of it. The likes of Meta and Magic Leap and Euphoria. A lot of these partnerships kind of originated from conversations we had at AWE over nearly the last 10 years.
This is the place you can meet people physically and you can have these partnerships, you can have these meetings, and this is impressive. We just talked to Reactive Reality, for example. They do the try-on feature for the applications and the web, and we already talked about the partnerships and how we can integrate their technology into our projects. And that is what is AWE for me. It's about the partnerships, it's about relationships and being together in this.
I think we helped already to meet new people and find new potential customers and partners. It's great.
Actually, we have already made some really good connections with different kind of startup founders, and we're going to partner up because we see really huge effectiveness by mixing our services. So let's see, it's really amazing for us being here, and it's really getting us really good results.
We've had a few talks about potential partnerships, working together, working with universities, that type of thing, where we can kind of get the word out and mutually beneficial relationships.
We also have a lot of people who are sort of adjacent to the space, and they have the same sort of customers and they feel a similar need but different. So we've had a lot of talks with them about partnerships and expanding how we can both help people out. So that's been really great too.
As soon as I was visible inside AWE, a lot of VCs in San Francisco contacted me. So at AWE, I had business meetings. So it's very important for us, of course.
Okay, well, I've got another preview of that, but I shall save that to next week. But obviously, the real world, the main All Conference is coming up very shortly, so getting a lot of interesting previews and things coming up at the moment. So, otherwise, that's it for this week. So, any other thoughts, James, on anything we've been covering, or?
No, not really. I'm just kind of on autopilot here today.
yeah, that figures. I know that feeling. I've had it half the week myself. So.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, my thanks to James, of course, for being here, fiddling with all the knobs, mixing the video, sound, desktop, everything else together. And I guess I should thank the other person sitting in the other chair, whoever he is. Anyway, we will return same time, same place next week with the latest roundup of the weekly MBTV news. Until then, it's a wrap and we're out of here. Bye for now.